The courtroom was so silent, you could hear a heart breaking. Sunlight cut through the tall, arched windows, laying golden bars across the polished floor, trapping dust motes in its glow. At the center of it all sat Ara Whitman, her hands trembling as they cradled the swollen curve of her belly. She had walked into this place with the weight of a shattered world on her shoulders, her heart a frantic drum of fear, shame, and the thinnest sliver of hope that the truth might finally matter. As the low whispers of lawyers and onlookers swirled around her, a cold dread washed over her. The room began to spin, the golden light turning harsh and blinding. Her body finally gave in. With a soft sigh, she collapsed against the heavy oak table. A collective gasp ripped through the chamber. In that single dramatic moment, every eye swiveled from her crumpled form to the other woman. Mistress, dressed in a defiant crimson that screamed victory. Cassandra Hart's smirk didn't falter. It lingered in the air, a cruel, invisible dagger aimed straight at Ara's heart. Ara had never wanted a life of drama and courtrooms. Her dreams were simple, woven from threads of ordinary joy. A small home filled with laughter, a husband who cherished her, and a child who would grow up wrapped in unconditional love. For a time, she had it all. Or so she thought. Her husband, Adrien, a wealthy entrepreneur admired throughout the city, had broken their sacred vows. The woman he chose was Cassandra Hart, a striking figure who wore her beauty and influence like armor. The rumors started as whispers, quiet and poisonous, slithering through their social circles until they became a truth too loud to ignore. When Ara finally confronted Adrien, her carefully built world didn't just crack, it exploded. He denied nothing. Instead, with a coldness that stole her breath, he filed for divorce, publicly siding with Cassandra. Pregnant and utterly broken, Ara thought she had lost everything. But Adrien's cruelty had only just begun. To protect his reputation and his vast fortune, he committed the ultimate betrayal. He claimed the child she carried might not be his, planting a vicious seed of doubt and accusing her of infidelity. Cassandra, a constant shadow at his side, nurtured his lie with venomous words, painting Ara as a deceiver. And so, their private tragedy was dragged into the public square, a courtroom where a simple DNA test would decide not just the fate of a marriage, but the future of an innocent, unborn child. The trial was a grueling nightmare. Day after day, Ara had to endure Cassandra's mocking eyes, that permanent smirk that broadcasted she had already won. Day after day, she listened as lawyers twisted her life, her love, and her character into ugly, unrecognizable fragments. Through it all, Ara clung to the one truth she knew with every fiber of her being. The life growing inside her belonged to Adrien. She prayed for strength. She prayed for justice. Most of all, she prayed for the chance to shield her baby from a life lived under the heavy shadow of a lie. On the day she fainted, the courtroom was packed. Some came for the gossip, others for the spectacle of a powerful man's potential downfall. When Ara's body gave out, the judge immediately called for paramedics. But after she was revived, her face pale but her eyes burning with a fierce light, she insisted on staying. "I need to hear the results," she whispered, her voice raspy but firm, no matter what. The judge, a stern man who had seen everything, seemed moved by her raw determination. He gave a solemn nod and ordered the court to proceed. The air grew thick and heavy as the court clerk entered, holding a single, sealed envelope that held all their futures. The tension was a physical thing, a pressure building until it felt impossible to breathe. Cassandra leaned back in her chair, arms folded smugly, her red dress a splash of fire in the somber room. She whispered something to Adrien, and they shared a brief, confident smile. They were sure they had won, that their lies had drowned out the truth forever. Ara's eyes, however, never left the clerk. Tears welled, blurring her vision as she placed a protective hand over her stomach. This wasn't just her fight anymore. It was for the child who deserved a name, who deserved to be claimed and loved. The judge took the envelope. He opened it with slow, deliberate precision, his eyes scanning the page. The silence was absolute, unbearable. The steady tick-tock of the large clock on the wall sounded louder than a drumbeat. Then, with a voice as steady and solid as stone, the judge read the results aloud. The DNA test confirms, with 99.9% certainty, that Adrian Whitman is the biological father of Era Whitman's unborn child. Gasps erupted across the room like waves crashing against a cliff. Adrian's handsome face drained of all color, turning into a mask of pale shock. But it was Cassandra's reaction that silenced everyone. The victorious smirk vanished as if it had been wiped clean. Her confident posture dissolved, her arms dropping heavily to her sides. For the first time, her mask of cold arrogance cracked, and her lips trembled, searching for words that were no longer there. She was utterly, completely speechless. Ara closed her eyes, and the tears she had held back for so long streamed freely down her cheeks. A tidal wave of relief washed through her, so powerful it almost knocked her over again. For the first time in months, she took a full, deep breath, her chest rising with hope instead of crushing despair. She had been humiliated, betrayed, and abandoned, but in that one pure moment, the truth stood around her like an impenetrable shield. The mistress who had mocked her, who had tried to steal not just her husband but her dignity, could do nothing now. The simple truth had spoken louder than all her lies. The fallout for Adrien was swift and devastating. The judge publicly condemned his deceitful actions, awarding Era a settlement that ensured full financial security for her and her child. News of his moral bankruptcy spread, and his business empire began to crumble as disgusted partners and investors pulled away. Cassandra, once paraded on his arm as a prize, now shared his public shame. She slipped out of the courtroom unnoticed, no longer a victor in crimson, but a silent ghost whose illusions had been shattered. Era, though still carrying the deep wounds of betrayal, walked out of that courthouse with her head held high. The sunlight outside seemed warmer, brighter than it had been in a very long time. It felt as though the world was welcoming her back. Strangers who had witnessed her ordeal approached her, not with pity, but with kind words and tears of solidarity in their eyes. In that moment she understood she was not alone. In the months that followed, Era carefully, piece by piece, rebuilt her life. She welcomed a baby boy into the world, naming him Gabriel, which means, God is my strength. Every night, as she cradled him in her arms, rocking him to sleep, she whispered promises of love, of safety, and of a future where he would always know the truth. The scars on her heart remained, but they no longer defined her. What defined her now was her unshakable courage to stand tall against betrayal and her fierce, unwavering love for the child who had given her a reason to fight.